Hey there and welcome. I'm best-selling author, coach, small business specialist Alex Goad, and today we're going to continue with the 10x Your Life protocol, and we're going to talk about one of the really important things, which is executables. So what the heck is an executable? Well, we have a magical power as human beings, and sometimes we're not even aware of this power, and a lot of the times, even if we are, we don't know how to use it. But I'm going to show you all of that in this short video right here. So basically, in nature, there is very little free will and there's a lot of instinct. Meaning that if you look at any of the animals that are not us, you'll find that really they have a ton of programming that they're already born with. The minute that they appear, the minute that they become conscious, they've got all of these things that are going on in their mind, all of these programs that are dictating their behavior. And it's very hard, and in fact almost impossible, for them to do something that is different from the behavior that they were programmed to do. Now, in many cases, this is actually an incredibly useful mechanism because life in nature is hard. And if you put your guard down, if you eat less than you could, if you don't seize all of your opportunities, if you don't work hard from sun up until sun down, like most species do, then you have very little chances of survival. So really, survival has been programmed into the lower animals. The difference with us is that we have free will. So we have some of these programs, but a lot more of the space that in animals is occupied by the predetermined programming, in humans is not. So the space has been left blank so that, assumedly, you can choose the programs or the executables that you want, and you can run those, the ones that suit you, that suit your environment, that suit your goals and objectives, instead of running automated programming and making us all pretty much the same. So the uniquely human trait is habits. So what's a habit? Well, a habit is exactly an executable. It's a program that you can run, and in a lot of cases that actually runs automatically when a certain situation presents itself. So something happens, and all of a sudden it's like a button is pushed inside of us in our subconscious mind, and that button makes us run a program which may have one or several steps, and the goal of the program is to lead to a specific result. Now, most people acquire a ton of habits that they're not even aware of. They think that that's their identity. They think that this is a part of them. They think that this is something that is them. Not something that they do, but something that is them. And this is a really important distinction because if you look at things that way, then it's very hard to step outside of the boundaries of what you're already doing and how you already are. If you start looking at this as something that you do, then you might just put it on the table, or you might just look at it as if you're opening, for example, all of the programs on your computer and you're looking at the list of the programs, you're looking at the space that they occupy on your hard drive, and you look at the results that they actually produce for you in life, and you might take one and put it in the trash can. Or you might look and see that something's missing and that would make your life a heck of a lot easier, so you take a new program and you install it. If you start looking at habits that way, you can make astounding levels of progress in your life. And I'm going to show you in the next video the 10 power zones where if you've got a good or a bad habit, it makes all the difference in the world. That's next time. So here's how habits function. First of all, you have a cue. So something in the environment, inside of you, outside of you, whatever it may be, triggers the situation where usually you solve that situation or you get the result that you want out of that situation by running a routine. So that's step 2. Number 1, the cue, the trigger. Number 2, the routine. You run this routine because you're hoping to get to a certain goal or you're hoping to get a certain result. And the reason why this happens automatically is because it's been proven to work again and again for you. Every time that you get this cue, you run this routine and you get the reward. Reward might seem a little weird because a lot of the times what we get out of running a routine is something that we wouldn't necessarily consider much of a reward, but our brain does. And that's why it's so important to investigate this, because a lot of the times you may not even realize that you're working to set yourself up for these rewards that you don't even want. Let me give you an example. A lot of people get out of a state of either boredom, loneliness, self-loathing, anxiety. The way that they do it is they pick a fight with someone. You pick a fight with someone, you get angry. All of a sudden, those kind of emotions of uncertainty and dissatisfaction and anxiety and uncertainty disappear, and they're replaced by something stronger, which is a certain emotion. When you're angry, you feel sure that you've been wronged, that something bad has happened. And so you go from a state of uncertainty to a state of certainty, and that's actually the reward. There's other rewards too. If you look at the brain of people that are experiencing strong emotions, even strong negative emotions, the chemistry looks very similar to that of people experiencing strong pleasurable emotions, and it's very easy to confuse the two. Anyways, let's not get lost in the details, but that's the idea. Cue, routine, reward. Now, if you can change the programs that are running on your computer, it would stand to reason that you could go from getting a low result to a medium result to a very high result. And if you can stack these programs, effective, efficient programs, one on top of the other, then you can achieve a lot more, a lot faster. You can do so without too much thinking, without too much willpower. And so the way to create, or to at least make it easy to do the little things and the things that you must do every day, is to transform it into a habit. And sometimes we need to transform a bad habit into a good habit, or we need to create a new habit where no habit exists. So here are the steps to change really quickly. Number one, I talked about this a little bit, but the first step, when I kind of had my, what I call a habit epiphany. One day I was reading and I came across this piece of work that basically said that you are the sum of your habits. And it said something along the terms of, your habits are either your prison walls or they're your palace walls. So your habits are either making your life terrible or making your life great, or somewhere in between. And this piece of work stated that maybe 90% of everything that we get and that we do and how we interact with the world is actually based on a habit. So the first thing that you want to do is become extraordinarily aware that all of these things that you're doing and all of these programs that are running inside of you are habits, which means that you can take them out, you can look at them, you can examine them, and if you don't like what you see, you can change it for something else. And that changes your outcomes dramatically. So the first step is to increase awareness. How do you increase awareness? Well, first of all, you figure out what's the habit that's running, what's the cue, what's the routine, what's the reward. And then, if you decide that you want to change that habit, you need to remind yourself of it constantly. You remind yourself of it by thinking about it in the morning. For example, if you're doing the morning ritual, which I hope that you are, the 7 by 7, if you're doing that, well, that'll be a great place to become aware of something that you're trying to change in your life. The same thing when you get to the point where you're writing your plan for the day. You should be doing that on a piece of paper or on a screen, and it should be very structured. And in that structure, there should be a space where you take awareness of certain things that you want more of in your life. For example, a habit that you're trying to change. So you think about it there. You might put a post-it note on your mirror in the bathroom so that every time that you're there, you just kind of get a reminder. You might want to wear a bracelet. You might put an alarm on your phone that rings a couple of times a day and reminds you, are you doing your best to adopt this new habit? When you become aware of it, you're going to see the extent to which you're running these programs in your life, and it's going to make it so much easier to adopt the new behavior instead of the old behavior that you don't want anymore. Step 2, you need to make the new routine attractive. Now, there's a whole bunch of different ways to make things attractive. One of them is to give yourself a reward when you do things right, but the other thing is that if you make the old routine harder to do and the new routine easier to do, then it's more likely that you're going to do the new one. The human brain is an energy conservation machine. So basically, it wants to do the thing that's going to require the least energy. So the old routine is familiar. For that reason, it doesn't require a lot of energy. And for that reason, it's going to be your default mode of operation, because you can get the reward without using much energy, without thinking about things much. Now, all you have to do is make it a little easier to do the thing that you want and a little harder to do the thing that you don't want. This might be just as silly as taking the batteries out of the remote control for the television and putting them on the side table. And it seems ridiculous, but just the fact when you think about watching TV, your brain goes, oh, I'm gonna have to put the batteries in the remote, oh. And just that is enough to dissuade you a tiny bit from doing that. And if instead there's, for example, a guitar on the couch, and what you want to do, the new routine that you want is to practice the guitar for 15 minutes before you watch TV, then it'll be easier to just pick it up and start playing. Very good books have been written about this, by the way. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, that's probably the #1 reference. And there's another excellent one that just came out not long ago by James Clear called Atomic Habits. I really recommend both of them. Finally, the last step is repetition. You can't get away from it. You know, the reason why you have a habit is because of repetition, frequency, recency. So if you repeat a new action often enough and you refrain from doing the old thing, well, the new thing becomes the familiar thing, and all of a sudden you have a new habit instead of an old habit. The thing is that you're going to have to do it several times. Some scientists say that it takes 21 days to change a habit or to create a new habit. Others say it takes closer to 70 days. I would err on the side of caution and say that the longer you do things, the more aware you are, and the more you repeat, the more likely it is that the new habit will stick and that the old one will disappear. All right, on your quest to change your habits, if you start reading about this, and if you start really thinking about it, you might just have your own habit epiphany, where you realize that if you change some of the executable programs that you're running in your life without being conscious of them, that you can really make it so that instead of getting this result, you're getting that result. And it all happens automatically once you've done the habit change. The temptation is to go overboard. And that's what I did, and that's what so many people that realize the power of this do. They go overboard. Well, here are the 2 ways that you're most likely to go overboard. #1, you might try to change more than one habit at once. And it's sometimes possible, but it's not likely. So if you want to be successful at habit change, you have to be patient. You have to pick one, the right one, and then you have to see it through to the end, which means give it 60 days, give it 70 days. Don't try to do more than one thing at once, because the very characteristic of habits is a lot that they're unconscious. You don't even know that you're doing it. So you can't increase your awareness of everything that you're doing. You can only increase your awareness really specifically of a couple of things at the same time. So if you try to do too many, your awareness becomes so diffuse that you're going to find that you're always screwing up the new habit. It makes you feel bad. It makes it that there's no progress. It makes you quit, which makes you fail at the whole endeavor of new habit formation. So, one at a time. I know it's tempting. I know you're probably a high performer. You're probably smart. You're probably used to being successful at things. You want to be successful? One at a time. All right. The second thing is that there are certain things that are worth doing, and there's a lot of things that are worth leaving alone forever. So optimizing refers to the tendency, once you understand this whole habit thing, of trying to make every little habit perfect, or trying to make every aspect of your life into a perfect habit. The problem with this is that we also need a certain amount of uncertainty to feel good, and the bigger problem is that when you focus on the small stuff, the big stuff tends to disappear off the plate. When you have to use all of this mental energy to think about doing these little things, then eventually you find that you have less energy left to do the big things. So this is actually one of my 10x principles, is that you've got to focus disproportionately on the things that produce the biggest results. That's where you get leverage. If you focus on the little things, you get almost nowhere. And if you ignore the little things but do the big things well, that's where all of the doors open. So the same thing is true for habits. You want to figure out what are the most important habits that you could modify in your life. What are the biggest ones that you don't have a good system for, and that if you did have a good system, it would produce tremendous gains in any aspect, in your career, in your ability to earn money, in the speed at which you learn things, in your relationships with others, in your degree of personal satisfaction and happiness. All of those things are habits. I'm going to leave you now with a magic number, 26%. I'm going to show you in the next video that you can 10x your life. Yes, you can multiply your results that you have now by 1,000% if you modify every one of the 10 power zones that I'm going to talk to you about in the next video. If you modify each one of the 10 by 26%, 26% is nothing. If you multiply each one by just 26% better, then that compounds into 10 times better than you're getting now, into 1,000% better results. And you know what? I'm being ridiculously conservative when I'm saying that. So this is how, with small incremental improvements in a large number of different aspects of your life, you can really become the kind of person who can be anything, do anything, have anything, and experience anything. So, I hope that you'll join me for the next video. If you like this, hey, push the social media button, give it a like, give it a share, enter your name and email in the box below. Join me on the next video. I'm Alex Goad, reminding you that today counts, so behave yourself accordingly.